Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Desire UPSC Vlogs. In today's live study stream, I am going to read, revise and analyze UPSC previous year questions of economics subject, and there are 4 divisions into it. So today we are going to, in this session we are going to learn structure of the Indian economy and demographics. So this is a kind of a revision and learning session for me, because I earlier have attempted and analyzed and read this questions from uh, in in a particular paper, but topic wise I'm reading it for second or third time. So yes, I hope you guys are also sitting and doing your studies along with me. I hope this session will turn out to be motivating and inspiring for you guys, and it will also able to motivate you to stretch your studies a little longer. So yes, we'll proceed, and in the end of this particular study session we will be having a doubt sessions. If you guys have any doubts, or if you have some kind of questions relating to preparation, some kind of any queries that you want to ask me, you can ask in the comment section below or in the live chat. So I'll be not answering the questions during this particular live study stream, but I'll be happy to answer those questions at the end of the live stream. So yes, let's begin the session. And for this live stream I'm keeping my audio on, so you guys can listen what I'm reading and what I'm revising. So let's begin the session. I hope it turns out to be productive. So let's begin. I would like to, before beginning, I would like to share with you guys that I find economics a little bit difficult. So, whenever like I'm feeling very much energetic, and like in the uh, first, second, or third session of the day, I try to read or revise the economy, because it turns out to be really easy for me to read that subject. Because if I try to read economy by the end of the day or in the last sessions of the day, it is very difficult to gain or to grasp the learning out of the subject, because it is very exhausting for the mind to read something which you don't like, or which is a kind of a difficult for you to understand. So that's why I prefer morning study sessions to read my economy subjects. uh, what I'm going, the strategy for me to read this economy questions is that I'm going to read the question first, and then I will and simultaneously I'll be looking at the answer. So it will become a good learning process, that I'll be reading the question and at the same time I'll be reading the answer. So it will be a holistic learning for me. So let's begin. The first question of 2020: in the context of Indian economy, non-financial debt includes which of the following? In context of the Indian economy, in context of non-financial debt includes which of the following? So it is D, all housing loans owned by the households, amounts outstanding on credit cards and treasury bills. An explanation for it is: non-financial debt excludes the debt of financial institutions, which includes the following. Non-financial debt excludes the debt of financial institutions, those institutions that borrow solely or re-lend and the money. In other words, if a NABARD, ILFS, etc. has borrowed money to re-lend it, then it should be a financial debt, and all other type of debt will be non-financial debt. So in above Options: all the three loans are taken by the person or entities who will not re-lend it, but they will use the funds for their own purpose. Therefore, the answer is D. They will use the funds for their own purposes. So that is non-financial debt is something which we use for our own purpose, and we are not going to re-lend it again. So these are called non-financial debt. So housing loans, amount outstanding on credit cards, and treasury bills, these are non-financial debt. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following statements. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following statements. Commercial paper is a short-term unsecured promissory note. Call money, in short, I'll be highlighting things because it is easy when we revise things. Commercial paper is a short-term unsecured promissory note, and call money is a short-term finance used for interbank transactions. Call money is a short-term finance used for interbank transactions. Certificate of deposit is a short-term debt instrument. Long-term instrument. Call money is a short-term finance for interbank transaction is correct. What is the importance of the term interest coverage ratio? What is the importance of the term interest coverage ratio? It helps in understanding the present risk of a firm that a blank. It helps in understanding that present risk of a firm that a bank is going to give a loan to. It helps in evaluating emerging risk of a firm that a bank is going to give loan to. Interest coverage ratio helps in understanding the present risk of a firm that a bank is going to give a loan to. It helps in evaluating the emerging risk of a firm that a bank is going to give loan to. Yes, and explanation is NCERT accountancy books confirm a higher interest coverage ratio ensures safety to interest on debts. The third statement answer is correct. By looking at the interest coverage ratio, we can identify the present risk of a firm. This is not generating good revenue. Yes. The Reserve Bank of India recent directives relating to storage of payment system data, properly known as data dikkat command of payment system, provided that they shall ensure that either data retaining to payment systems operated by them are stored in a system only in India. System are stored only in India. As per RBI's directives, payment system providers are required to store the data in India only. Payment systems are required to store data in India only. Consider the following statements. One of the tasks of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board is to ensure competitive markets for gas. Appeals against the decision of it go before the appellate tribunals of electricity. Petroleum and Natural Board. The chairman of the public sector banks are selected by the chairman of the public sector banks are selected by the Banks Board Bureau. Banks Board Bureau. Banks Board Bureau was set up in 2016. The Banks Board Bureau select top officials, MD, CEO, chairman, and full-time directors for public sector banks, LICs, and other public sector financial institutions. In context of India, which of the following factors is contributor or contributors to reducing the risk of a currency crisis? The foreign currency earnings of India's IT sector and remittances from Indians abroad. Which are the factors contributing in reducing the risk of currency crisis? Currency crisis can be reduced. The foreign currency earnings of India in IT sector and remittances of Indians abroad. The currency crisis usually denotes that Indian rupee is weakening and dollar is strengthening at a rapid level. In ordinary circumstances, rupee-dollar exchange rate is determined by the market forces of supply and demand. Therefore, we have to ensure that inflow of dollars to reduce the risk of currency crisis. Inflow of dollar to reduce the currency crisis. 1 and 3 can help in this regard. 2 is irrelevant. In fact, 2 can backfire if rising government expenditure results in excessive printing of rupee currency. Thus, by elimination B, we get 1 and 3. So, if we want to avoid currency crisis, it is important that we encourage the inflow of dollars in order to reduce the risk of the currency crisis. Which of the following is not included in the assets of the commercial banks in India? Deposits is not included as the assets of the commercial bank in India. Microeconomic class 12 observers, deposits are plotted on the liability side of the commercial bank's balance sheet. Deposits are liability of the commercial bank. Despite being a high saving economy, capital formation may not result in significant increase in output due to high capital. Despite being a high saving economy, capital formation may not result in significant increase in output due to high capital output ratio. Capital output ratio measures the percentage increase in the capital formation required obtaining a percentage increase in GDP. Entrepreneurs, by investing their own savings and informally mobilizing the saving of their friends and relatives, contribute to the process of capital formation. These informal funding supplements the funds made available by the formal means of raising resources from banks, financial institutions, and capital market. So D is fitting the option. If capital to output ratio is high, then capital formation may not result in significant increase in the output. If the capital to output ratio is high, then the capital formation may not result in significant result in the output. With reference to India's decision to levy an equalization tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities, which of the following statements are correct? Neither. With India's decision for heavy equalization of like which of the India's decision to levy an equalization of tax of 6% on online advertisement services offered by non-resident entities. It was introduced in 2016 as a separate legislation under finance bill, and it doesn't provide tax credit in home country, so both are wrong. This was introduced in 2016 as a separate legislation under the finance bill. Separate legislation under the finance bill. Consider the following items: cereal grains halted, chicken, eggs cooked, fish processed and canned, newspaper containing advertising material. Which of the above items are exempted under the GST Council tax? Under the GST Goods and Services tax, it is cereal grains halted, chicken, eggs cooked, and newspaper containing advertising material. Fish processed and canned. 88 is C. When a client book ad in newspaper, he has to pay 18% GST to newspaper owner who deposits it to the government. But when such a newspaper is sold to public, they are not required to pay newspaper price plus GST. So 4 is exempted from GST. Processed canned food is subject to GST. So by elimination we got correct answer. Some experts were divided that if eggs are cooked in 5-star hotels, it will be subjected to GST. However, UPSC official answer key has kept, so it is C only. So the canned food is eggs, and it is the canned food can be put under GST. Okay, consider the following statements. The Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management FRBM Review Committee report has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for the general combined government by 2023, comprising 40% of the central government and 20% of the state government. As per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for the state to take central government's consent for raising a loan if the former owes any outstanding liabilities to the latter. As per Economic Survey, first statement is right, but the central government's domestic liability is 46%, so it is wrong. Consider the following statements. Capital adequacy ratio is the amount that banks have to maintain in the form of their own funds to offset any loss that banks incur in the account holder fail to repay dues. CAR is decided by the benchmark set by the Basel III Committee on the Banking Supervisions and implemented by the Central Bank of individual country. Which of the following links all the ATMs in India? Which of the following links all the ATMs in India? It is C. National Payments Corporation of India. It links all the ATMs in India. I'm back after a 5 minute study break. I just went outside to grab some water. If another global financial crisis happens in the near future, which of the following actions policies are most likely to give some immunity to India? Select the correct answers using the code given below. Not depending on the short term foreign borrowings. Since short term foreign borrowings have to be returned at a shorter interval, it will lead to vulnerability for the economy, which is already facing economic crisis. The obligation to return the debt along with the interest payments will further aggravate the bad financial situation of the economy. So the ideal situation should be not to depend on the short term foreign borrowings during the crisis, as it has already been observed that during the global financial crisis of 2007-2008, foreign banks reduced their lending. Even many of these banks choose to retreat from cross-border banking in general, including through cutting back on new entry. So opening up to foreign bank is not an ideal policy during any global financial crisis. Indian rupee is a partially convertible currency. Example, rupee can be exchanged at market rates in certain cases, but approval is required for larger amounts. Even though making the rupee fully convertible currency would mean increased liquidity in financial markets, better employment and trade opportunities, and easy access to capital formation, but still it would lead to higher volatility and increased burden of foreign debt and an effect on the balance of trade and exports. Hence, making currency fully convertible will make economy more vulnerable to the crisis. Next question: if you withdraw rupees Utna in the cash from your demand deposit account at your bank, the immediate effect on aggregate money supply in the economy will be it leave it unchanged. Some people are asking about the book. It is New Vishal Publications topic wise analysis book. This book, New Vishal Publication, UPSC Civil Services General Studies Prelims, Paper 1, Paper 2, 2011 to 2020, topic wise solved papers, and they are with the detailed explanation. I generally don't interact in between the live study session, but as you guys are concerned about the book name, so that's why I showed, and I will also write the name in the comment section or in the description of my video. So let's start again the session. With reference to the blockchain technology, consider the following statement. It is a public ledger that everyone can inspect, but which is no single use control. The applications that depend on basic features of blockchain can be developed without anybody's permission. Yes, the answer is 1 and 3. A blockchain is a public ledger information collected through the networks that sits on top of the internet. In the new way of documenting data on the internet, the information is packed into blocks which link to form a chain with other blocks of similar information. Once a consensus is reached between the devices to store something into a blockchain, it cannot be disputed, removed, or altered without the knowledge and permission of those who made that record. Not all cryptocurrencies operate in a blockchain, and not all blockchain utilizes cryptocurrencies as part of their design. Most of the applications using blockchain technology do not fulfill the criteria of patent filing in blockchain technology. Distributed ledger in peer-to-peer network is used for recording transactions which does not generate much confidence in getting the patent, as it is like getting the patent for an algorithm computer program. Thus, applications that depend on basic features of the blockchain can be developed without asking anybody for permission or paying anyone. Gold Trench Reserve Trench refers to a credit system granted by IMF to its member. Reserve Trench is a component of the member country's quota with the IMF, International Monetary Fund, that is in the form of gold or foreign currency. For any member country, out of the total quota, 25% should be paid in the form of foreign currency or gold. Hence, this is called as reserve trench or gold trench. The remaining credit trench, in other words, a reserve trench is basically an emergency account that IMF members can access without agreeing to the conditions or paying a service fee. If the amount being sought by the member nations exceeds its reserve trench position, then it becomes a credit trench that must be repaid in 3 years. With reference to the funds under the Members of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme (MP-LADS), which of the following statements are correct? MP-LADS funds must be used to create durable assets like physical infrastructure for health, education, etc. A specialized portion of each MP's fund must benefit SC/ST population. The district authority must inspect at least 10% of all works under the implementation every year. The MP-LAD scheme was formulated in 1993 to enable MPs to recommend development works in their constituencies with emphasis on the creation of durable community assets based on locally felt needs. Recommendation by the MPs should be done annually, with works costing at least 15% of the NP-LAD's entitlements of the area inhabited by the scheduled caste population and 75% of the areas inhabited by the ST populations. Each year under the MP-LADs, MP receives rupees 5 crore in the two installments of rupees 2.5 crore each. Funds under the MP-LADs are not lapsable. This amount is given to the district authority of the nodal district selected by the concerned MP. The district authority's role has been outlined in the different paragraphs of the MP-LADs guidelines. The district authority would be responsible for the overall scheme of the district level and inspect at least 10% of the work under the implementation every year. Along with Along with budget, the financial minister also places another document before the parliament which include the macroeconomic framework statement. Provisions of the Financial Responsibility and the Budget Management Act 2003. The macroeconomic framework statement is presented to the Parliament as per the Fiscal Responsibility and the Budget Management Act 2003. The FRBM instructs the government to make an assessment of the growth prospects of the economy with specific underlining assumptions. That framework statements contain statements regarding GDP growth rate, fiscal balance of the central governments, and the external sector balance of the economy, monetary management and financial intermediation, banking sectors, agricultural and industry are also covered by the statement. What is the importance of the term interest coverage ratio? It helps in understanding the present risk of the firm that a bank is going to give loan to. The higher borrowing firms, yeah, the value of the Indo-Sri Lanka trade has consistently increased in the last decade. The textile and the textile articles constitute an important items of the trade between India and Bangladesh. Are correct. 2 seconds only. The trade between India and Sri Lanka registered a sharp decline of 25% during 2016-17 as compared to 2015-16. The export also decreased by 26% during the same period. The export value is 2016-17 was the lowest in the last 5 years. The import also decreased by 19% during the same time. Bangladesh has been a major textile trading partner for India with a share of more than 5% in the exports and over 7% in imports. While annual textile export of Bangladesh averages $2,000 million, imports was worth of $40 million. The major items of exports are fiber and yarn of cotton, man-made staple fibers and man-made filaments, while major import item includes apparel and clothing, fabric and other made-up textile articles. India's trade with countries of South Asia has remained less than 4% of its global trade since 80s. Bangladesh is India's largest trading partner in South Asia, followed by Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bhutan, Afghanistan, and Maldives. In which of the following groups are 4 countries members of G20? G20 is an international forum for governments and central bank governors from 19 countries and European Union. The member countries of the forum are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, UK, US, and European Union. The weightage of food in consumer price index is higher than the wholesale price index. The wholesale price index does not capture changes in the prices of the services which CPI does. The weightage of the food in WPI is around 26%, which is lower than the weightage of CPI, which is around 46%. The wholesale price index measures the changes in the prices of the goods sold and traded in the bulk by the wholesale business to other businesses, which is unlike consumer price index, which tracks the prices of the goods and services purchased by the consumers. RBI on April 1, 2014 adopted the CPI as the key measure of inflation. Till then, RBI was using WPI to gauge and measure indicative inflation projections. With reference to international trade of India at present, which of the following statements are correct? India's merchandise exports are less than its merchandise imports. India's exports of service are more than its imports of services. India suffers from an overall trade current account deficit. With the global trade coming to a near halt due to COVID-19 pandemic, India's merchandise exports are declined during the last few months. On closer analysis of India's merchandise trade, India faces trade deficit as imports have always grown faster than exports during last few months. Except for iron ore and drugs, pharmaceuticals, all other commodities saw a negative growth. During 2018, India's service exports stood at $205 billion, whereas service imports stood at $176 billion. West Texas Intermediate, sometimes found in the news with reference to the grade of crude oil. West Texas Intermediate can refer to a grade or a mix of crude oil or the spot price of the futures price of the assessed price of that oil. With reference to the Indian economy after 1991, 1991 economic liberalization, the rural areas, the growth of the non-farm economy increased. The growth rate in the rural development decreased. Productivity in the measure of the efficiency with with which resources, both human and material, are converted into goods and services. There are wide disparity in the workers' productivity between rural and urban areas. Still, workers' productivity increased in both urban and rural areas, even if the rate of increase was high in urban areas compared to the rural areas. The percentage share of the rural areas in the workforce increased for male but reduced for females. The Economic Census of India estimates that around 41.89 million rural people are employed in non-agricultural establishments, which registered a growth rate of 4.56% during 1998-2005. Steady, steady transition to urbanization over the year is a leading to decline in the rural share in the population, workforce, and GDP of the economy. In India, under cyber insurance for individuals, which of the following benefits are generally covered in addition to payment or for the loss of funds and other benefits? Cost of restoration of the computer system in case of malware disrupting access to one's computer, cost of hiring specialized consultants to minimize the loss in case of cyber extortion, cost of defense of the court of law if any third party flies a suit. Cyber insurance for individual policies are designed to cover expenses related to post-factor actions of the cyber attack, such as costs incurred during the prosecution process, and defense costs are paid by the insurance company. Type of cyber risk mentioned in the documentation of the policy. Other costs such as financial losses, online loss, money suffered by the policy holder due to cyber attacks are also covered in the policy up to the sum assured as mentioned in the policy. Expense incurred for counseling treatments post cyber attack is also paid for, including damages against third party liabilities and restoration cost. It also takes care of the consultant fee, court expenses, and legal fees concerning the cyber attack. So statement 1, 2 and 3. However, if the attack was intentionally and deliberately done, the policy will not pay any claim. Insurance do not cover any fraudulent, dishonest, malicious act. Now we have arrived at the end of the live stream, and in today's around 40-minute live stream, I read and revised economic questions of UPSC previous year papers of 2019 and 2020, and it was a productive session. It was a kind of a little bit difficult because economy is little bit difficult for me, but I have to read the questions, I have to remember the things. So what I do, I always practice economy with question and answer, so it is easy for me to retain and remember things, and that is the strategy which I use. And I also prefer sometimes I also use the strategy that I read a particular topic, then I practice some of the questions without seeing the answer. So these are the two strategies which I use in order to practice for my economics subject. So if you guys use some different kind of strategy, you can also suggest it in the comment section, so it can help other students, and that will be a good sharing of knowledge, and that is the whole purpose of this community learning, and YouTube is a good platform that we are distant away but still able to listen and view and share our views with each other. So yes, on this note, I would like to end the live stream. I wish happy study hours to all. I hope you guys are motivated and still pursuing your goals. So yes, if you guys are new to the channel, then do subscribe it. And if you like my video, and if you want to ask me something or to write something as an input, you can write it in the comment section below. And thank you everyone for watching my video.